Okay, let's get started then. So yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome to this event on getting into tech with IBM from a non-technical background. We thought it would be a good idea to do this kind of event because we find that students often aren't aware that you can actually get into our technical roles from a non-technical degree background. So we thought it would kind of raise a bit of awareness about these roles that you can apply to. So yeah, hope you enjoy it. So a couple of introductions. My name's Hannah. I'm a software engineer based in the Manchester lab. I graduated from Manchester Uni 3.5 years ago, I think now, and I've been at IBM ever since then.
And my name is Christina. I graduated last year from the University of Manchester too, where I studied IT management for business, and I've been working at IBM Consulting since July this year as a technical consultant.
Cool. Yeah, we've also got our panelists. I'll do a quick introduction to our panelists after we've been through our first introduction of the presentation. So it's just a brief hello to our panelists for the moment. Yeah, next slide, please. So quick agenda for what we're going to go through. So we're just going to go through who IBM are, if anybody doesn't know, and then a little explanation as to why we hire from non-technical backgrounds. And then I'll hand you over to Christina, who will talk you through what roles we offer and how to make your application pop. And then finally, we'll meet the panel where you get to ask any questions that you want to know. Cool. So who are IBM? Who are we? We are a global technology company. We are 110 years old this year, so quite a long history of innovation that we've got. A couple of things that you might have heard about. We've invented the barcode, we've invented the floppy disk, and we invented the ATM. So that's a little bit of history. Our work today, we work on many things all across the world, including a couple of things. So artificial intelligence using IBM Watson, and also our hybrid cloud infrastructure at the moment. So we have offices all over the world. Yeah, in the UK, the majority of our roles are based in Hursley, which is near to Southampton if you've never heard of it. And other offices all over the UK as well. The one in London, one in Manchester, and yeah, various other places throughout the UK. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, so why do we actually hire from non-technical backgrounds? The main reason really is the differing perspectives and skill sets that you students and graduates bring in from the different degree backgrounds. So say, for example, you have a team of maybe 5 people who all have computer science backgrounds, for example. They're all going to bring the same skill sets and toolkits towards solving a technical problem. If, for example, there was maybe an English graduate, sorry, on the team, they might bring strong analytical skills, for example, which would be kind of a different toolkit for the team for solving a problem. So this is kind of the idea behind why we want different ways of thinking and different skill sets within the team. So it's really valuable actually for us to have non-technical degree backgrounds. Yeah.
So this is just a quick highlight of our available roles divided in between technical and non-technical. And as you can see, we offer roles for graduates. We also offer placement opportunities for second-year students. And we also offer a summer internship. We just wanted to know, which is basically the main goal of this event, is that you can apply to any of these roles independently of your degree. So for example, you can study geography and apply to become a cybersecurity specialist. IBM will offer all of the tools available for you to start your careers in technology. We also have this link below, which will have more information on the specific roles available and when they open. Sadly, they're currently closed for this year, but they will open up for the next year. We are also going to send out this PowerPoint presentation out, which will include more information on our application process and some tips for what we're specifically looking for. And then I guess we also want to put forward that in order to make your application pop for a technical role, if you might not have that experience, what we're mostly looking for is that you have a passion for IBM and technology. And in order to do so, you need two key concepts. First, to learn and research. So, for example, research what IBM is doing, what we're known for, who our competitors are, what our products are, and the industries we work on, for example. And then we obviously would push you to do as much self-learning as possible before you start your role. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we will, once you join IBM, we will provide all of that training. But it's also really important for us to see that you have that personal initiative for personal development to try learning new things, even if you don't have that rigorous academic background. And another of the things we find really important is that you apply what you learn and research. So, for example, it really isn't enough to say, oh, I'm interested in data science. But it would be more interesting to us personally to hear, yeah, for example, I always forget to take my medicines, right? And I thought of developing an app to track and remind me when I forget to take those. So I developed an app to do so. So that's really important to us at IBM, because we not only realize that you are passionate about technology, but you can find ways to apply it and to solve problems for yourself personally or for our future clients. And to do so, we've listed a couple learning resources, which we believe are probably really useful in for all of you guys in case you want to start getting started into tech. So in terms of IBM, IBM has a private learning application for IBMers, but we also offer some of those badges publicly. You're going to have a link here when we share the slides, and we basically offer courses on building your own chatbot, and then data science and Hadoop, and so many more opportunities on also a couple other of non-technical courses. We also want to say that Watson Studio is available on a basic plan, which is free, so you're able to use it for any personal project you might be interested in. Also, if you are interested in the path of systems or data architecture, IBM has a lot of articles available online for you to look through and start your journey into architecture. We've also been doing some research, and Manchester Uni has both the University Computer Science Society that does both events and hackathons, and we also have a coding bootcamp, which again, the link is there, so you can do your own personal research on it. Sorry. And then finally, there's so many more things you can do with your personal time, from any personal projects as I described before, and we suggest writing about it on like Medium or LinkedIn and sharing it on your CV. We also recommend getting involved with events, so through Eventbrite or Meetup or LinkedIn, and get involved with the technical community, make friends, find people to do hackathons with or personal projects with. And we also have a list on some free resources for technical tutorials. So for example, Harvard offers their Introduction Computer Science module for free online. There's Google certification. The government also has a skills toolkit on coding and IT skills available for anyone to look through. But again, these are our recommendations, and there's so many free and easy ways of learning any technical area you might be interested in. And yeah, I guess this starts our panel. I think I don't know if we have Georgina. Okay, she might join a bit later.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Do you three want to introduce yourselves, talk about your experience, your different backgrounds, and what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'll go first. So my name's Bailey. I'm a go-to-market intern at the moment at IBM, and I'm studying business and management at the University of Portsmouth at the moment, and I'm working within IBM Z. So that's our mainframe portfolio, if you like. And I'm working with a lot of the software groups trying to bring a new product to market. So technically, my role is classed as a non-technical role. However, everybody who I work with is technical. So at times that definitely feels it's a bit more technical for a marketing role per se. So yeah, if you've got any questions about that, then feel free to ask me later on in our Q&A.
Thanks, Bailey. Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey all, I'm Lauren. I am a software developer and squad lead for specifically the IBM Cloud Pak for integration. So we're part of IBM Automation. I studied history at the University of Southampton and graduated in 2015 and then took a bit of a break before I joined again in 2019. If you guys have any questions at all about how development works and all of the fun that entails, then go right ahead. I won't bite, I promise.
Thanks, Lauren. And Grace?
Hi everyone, so I'm Grace. I studied law at the University of Surrey and graduated last year. I did both the internship at IBM as well as obviously now in the grad scheme. So during my intern year, I was in a sales role. But because it was client facing, I was having to do a lot of sales pitching of IBM tech. So I learned a lot about their offerings there. And now I'm in AI and analytics as a business consultant. So like Bailey, it's not really technically a technical role. But obviously AI and analytics, there's a lot of coding involved. And so at the moment, I'm involved with designing and deploying what is potentially going to be the world's largest HR chatbot. So yeah, I've had to upskill myself quite a lot on Python in the last couple of months. So yeah, I'm really new to the technical stuff. So any questions and concerns about that, yeah, please just shout.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, so we can get started with some questions. So if anybody has a question they want to shout up, or alternatively post it in the chat, we'll keep an eye on the chat. So yeah, go ahead and ask some questions. We have a couple to start with, I think, if I just find those.
I have them up if you want me to start it off.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So this is a question for the three of you. What do you think it means to be technical?
I mean, I'll happily start and then hand over to whoever else wants to chip in. But it's quite a topical question, that one, because I first arrived to IBM, just over 6 months ago. So I'm probably the newest out of all five of us here. So, and I arrived and I was like, oh my God, this is so technical. I can't do this. Basically, everybody was speaking in what may as well have been Japanese to me. It was just all acronyms and everything else. And then I quickly had a chat with a couple of mentors who basically said that if you keep telling yourself you're not a technical person, you'll never be technical, right? Just because you can't write lines of code doesn't mean you're technical. So for me now, being technical is just having that passion about technology and solving business issues. It's not actually, yes, I can't sit there and write, hours and hours and lines of code, but you know what? I can understand the high level concepts and how it adds value to the client, which is the most important thing. So for me, being technical is just having that curiosity and that interest in technology and how it adds value to our clients. I don't know about yourself, Grace and Lauren.
I mean, yeah, a similar situation to Bailey. Like, so I joined the grad scheme about 6 months ago as well. And I was thrown right in, like, right, you're going to build this chatbot. And I was like, right, okay, no idea what that is, no idea how to do that. But actually, when it's kind of broken down it's a lot less scary than actually it probably seemed at first. Like at the moment, I'm like leading a team building all these different multilingual skills within Watson Studio. And it's actually legit quite easy. But obviously at the beginning, you know, it looks quite impressive. I've got all my code up on my thing and my housemates walk in, they're like, oh my gosh, you're like a hacker. I'm like, yeah, of course. But really it's not like that at all. You know, everyone within the business has got your CV. They know your background. I had literally nothing technical. It's not like I even showed an interest in it in uni, like nothing. They knew I'd never looked at a bit of code before, but they were like, right, you know, we're just going to teach you. So even if you haven't even opened code before, you haven't looked at Python, like don't be afraid of that, because you know they're going to hire you based on and like pick you for projects based on you, and like kind of Bailey said, showing that passion for technology, but also a passion for learning new things, developing skills. And then you know they'll teach you everything. There are so many courses as well IBM offer. So before my project started, I kind of did a lot of learning on Python and doing like a course called Python Bible on Udemy. Would recommend. It was very, very good. You know, and it's just like learning these basics, and slowly you'll notice your skills just kind of rack up really quickly. So yeah, I would say that's what it means to be technical, is not only this passion for technology, but also, you know, this understanding that, you know, there is a lot of learning involved, but as long as you're willing to like put that time in, it will really kind of, you'll see the value really, really quickly.
Thank you.
Anything to add, Lauren?
I mean, everyone seems to have done such a good job there. But I mean, basically, I would like reiterate on what everyone else has said. Like, when I started, I knew a tiny bit of Java, and when I went in, it was like, oh yeah, JavaScript and Golang, and literally I've been thrown into like 4 or 5 different languages, and I've just been like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you know, they will expect to see like this sort of, like they know that you won't have this background, and they'll accept it, and they'll give you the help that you need. And basically, as long as someone says to you, do you want to have a go at doing this? If you say, just say yes, because even if you struggle, you've got the support for it. And at least then you can prove that you've got a drive to feel like, I guess, making a difference, or at least trying to support in some sort of way. Don't know if that actually helps, but
Of course it does.
Definitely.
So we have 2 questions in the chat. Hannah, do you want to
Yeah, no, I'll go for it. So yeah, we have a question saying, it's wonderful to see young and talented specialists in IBM. Can you suggest how the scope will be for IBM for PhD, MBA professionals with more than 5 years of experience and 40 plus years of age? Can I see opportunities and scope for mid-professionals like me with no coding experience? Does anybody have any suggestions for that?
So I actually, funnily enough, do have a bit of knowledge on that, because my foundation manager did this sort of career change thing, which I'm guessing would fit into you know, somebody with no coding experience who's looking for a mid-professional role. But she basically signed up for this sort of career change program, and I do apologize because I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but I'm sure we can find out some more information. And basically, it's whereby you move into a different role. Because at the end of the day, right, IBM aren't looking to employ a coder or a salesperson or a consultant. They want IBMers first. And if you've got that, the qualities of an IBMer, so, you know, the growth mindset, the ambition and the curiosity to learn and whatnot, then they really will help you find the right role for you. So I'd say definitely there is always opportunities for people with no coding experience, no matter what your age. But please do keep me in check, Grace and Lauren, if you do know any more.
No, that sounds perfect to me. I mean, I wouldn't have a first clue of where to begin answering that question. So I think that's a good answer.
yeah, I did have someone in my intake for graduates who had actually been in IBM 2 years already, and they ended up going into the developers graduate scheme, And basically, I think right now what they're doing is, yeah, it's basically a lot of stuff with Kubernetes and all that sort of thing. Like, so you could potentially even just go into a non-technical job, and then go and see, like, there is opportunities to be able to switch throughout, just like what Bailey said.
I'd agree with you there, Lauren, as well, in the sense that if you've got 5+ years experience already in whatever you're doing, come to IBM and do that almost, and then once you've got your foot in the door, like you said, Lauren, there's an abundance of training and whatnot to, you know, start to upskill yourself elsewhere and then start to transfer and build your network and whatnot. So sounds good.
Thank you. So we've got another question from Ella here that says, do you have a set training period at the start, or is it just as you go along in your grad scheme?
Should I explain that, since I've done it quite recently?
Yeah, go for it.
So basically, the way it works, at least for the business consultancy route, is no, the technical as well, because we had some technical guys in our induction. So what you have is a local induction, which is maybe 3 days, kind of just getting used to IBM as a company. Then you have 2 weeks of European induction. So that's going through, at least for the consultancy route, that's going through kind of the key skills of how to be a consultant. So you have that not only with UK-based grads, but, you know, ones across Europe. So we had people from Finland, people from Spain, all sorts. So that's quite good as well, getting your network. And then after your European induction, you then have a 2-week kind of specialist training period. So for each consultant, you're aligned to a practice. So for me, it's AI and analytics, but you have, you know, like more cloud-based ones, you have ones kind of all over the business. And so each practice sets what kind of essential training that each new consultant to the practice should have. So you've got 2 weeks to do that, and that's your initial training, and then you'll start going on projects and things like that. For each project, there's probably going to be training you'll want to do to help upskill you for that role. So before my role, I did a lot of AI and Watson Assistant based badges. So Watson Assistant is what this tool we use to kind of build chatbots. So I did a lot more kind of specialized training on that just before my project. And then throughout kind of our grad scheme's 2 years, so throughout those 2 years, at certain milestones, there's certain bits of education you're expected to do. So, you know, like diversity, inclusion, and BAME training you have to do kind of essential consultancy skills, and then you kind of you do that through earning badges, but they'll set them out for you, and then by the end of the 2 years, you kind of throughout you'll just keep on doing more and more. But actually, as IBMers, we're expected to do I don't know what's called now, but when I was an intern, it's called Think 40. So you're kind of each IBM, and no matter where you sit, you know what ranking you are, you're expected to do at least 40 hours of education every year. In reality, you're going to do way more than that every year. I'm already on like 150 hours of education since January. You know, it just racks up. Even like going to like talks, like lunchtime talks, that will count towards your Think 40. And so kind of, you know, IBM's ethos is all about innovation and growth, and that's exactly what they expect IBMers to do, is, you know, learn new skills, develop yourself. So yeah, so that will be it. But for the grad scheme especially, it is really guided. They'll set everything out for you.
I just thought I'd like to add to that as well. Sorry to interrupt there, because I don't know if we do have any people who are in year 2 of Manchester Uni, but in terms of the internship, and Grace, check me if I'm wrong again, because I know you were on the internship as well, but it tended to be a lot less formal, the education there and the training, I guess, and it's very much on the job training. So it's, as you know, as you're following through your manager, she'll tell you, or he'll tell you, you know, go and do this course online and whatnot, and then we'll learn how to do this process, or how we take on this challenge, etc., etc. But it very much is a bit more on the job. Whereas it sounds like, from what Grace is saying and from what I've heard in Careers Academy and whatnot, that the graduate schemes are very a bit more structured and a bit more formal, which I guess is great both ways.
Thank you both. Lauren, do you have anything to add to that? I know you've had experience on the Developer Jumpstart program, so that's probably.
I did. Obviously, I did that a couple of years ago, but it hasn't changed much from when I've done it. So basically, what we had was what they called Dev Camp, and we had a basically a 2-week intensive like whistle-stop tour of everything, basically. So you would go through GitHub, OpenShift. Gosh, what else did we do? We went through security stuff. Kubernetes, like literally there was like a million and one things. My head was buzzing at the end of every day. I was so tired from it. But after that, we were divided up into teams that were related to like, for example, like there was 6 of us for our cloud pack that were joining at the same time. And so we were all in a team together, and we spent 4 weeks doing essentially a special project that the teams themselves come up with. So for us, it was like something like they identified like an area that needed to be improved in the current product, and they're like, here you go, try and diagnose like what the pain points are, try and create what your project is going to be from start to finish, and then you get to basically do a showcase at the very end, and everyone shows like all of like what they've worked on to basically the wider Puzzly community. It was really, really useful for me and for us because it sort of gave us a grounding so that when we actually went into our teams, it meant that we could actually sort of like get started and be able to contribute to our teams like really, really quickly because we'd already have like a handle on like the code base or whatever.
That's so interesting. I wish I would have done that.
It's not too late.
Yeah, never is, never is.
Okay, let's go to the next question. From Sama, sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but you mentioned that we don't have to have a background in tech to be able to apply for these roles. However, if we don't have this background, how do we show that we have an interest in the field? And I think we touched on this a little bit in the presentation, but if anybody has anything else to add to that, go ahead.
Yeah, great question that is. And unfortunately, unlike Christina, I didn't actually create an app or anything as smart as that. So the way I sort of went about it with my application was just looking at, you know, what IBM have done in the past, and I thought that researching some of the stuff that they'd achieved. So, you know, like what we mentioned earlier of the ATM and the barcode and whatnot, but also some of the diversity stuff. So IBM were one of the first companies to let women work on the shop floor, if you like, back in New York at the start of 1900s, stuff like that. And their launch they helped NASA launch rockets in space and stuff like that. So that was the first bit. But also, I still, you know, back to the point of that they're trying to employ IBMers, right? They're not trying to employ a finished product of a developer or a salesperson or a marketeer. They just want IBMers. So if you can demonstrate on your CV that you've got that sort of ambition and curiosity to learn and go the extra mile and, you know, network and, you know, give back to other people, so charity work and stuff like that, that's really going to help you. And, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people say within IBM, I don't know if I should say this, they say IBM stands for I've been moved, because sort of once you're in IBM, they'll find the right role for you. So it's definitely something to consider as well. I don't know if, you know, Grace or Lauren, if you've got anything to add as well and how you made your application stand out.
I was going to say for mine, so because I've done 2 different applications, so an intern one and a grad one, and both I kind of went to kind of different ways to show an interest in tech without having a technical role. So for my internship, what I did was, like Bailey, research what IBM had been doing recently, and I saw that they'd been doing a lot of work with the rugby union. I couldn't care less about rugby, but I thought what they were doing was cool. And what I did in my kind of application was really focus on the fact that, you know, even though they're doing all this cool analytics for sport, you know, anyone can kind of do that. But what they were doing, the difference they were doing, was kind of creating a sense of community between the players and the fans. And I really leaned into that whole, how amazing that tech can be used to create community, not only, you know, between players and fans, but like across generations, that kind of thing. I really lent into that because I, you know, legitimately I was really interested in that aspect of it. So that's kind of what I did there, with looking at like finding a key interest in what something IBM has done recently. And then for my grad application, what I did was, rather than look at what IBM has done, I kind of was looking at, right, where could IBM go? And so I kind of merged my interest in law, so that's obviously my degree background, and thought, right, I knew I wanted to go into the AI practice, so how can we combine law and AI in a way that IBM hasn't done before? So at the moment, in terms of IBM's impact in the legal sector, it's more about kind of HR and how we can kind of automate a lot of the HR processes in legal firms. And what I was looking at is like, right, how can we actually, you know, bring legal services to those who can't afford it through AI applications and things like that, and then showed my interest in that way. So even though IBM hasn't touched that, they were like, oh, great, you know, you clearly do have an interest. You know, I did specify, look, I don't know how we would do this, I have no idea, but wouldn't it be amazing if we could do that? And that's kind of how I got around it. So I didn't even bring up like coding or anything like that. You know, I didn't touch the subject because I knew I couldn't blag it. But if you can show just your passion for something that IBM are doing or could do, then that I think will take you like quite far.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really inspiring story. Thank you. Yeah, Lauren, anything to add to that one?
Oh God, I got to try and think back now. It's going back a little now. At the time that I did my application for graduate, I was doing a part-time course with the Open University in object-oriented Java programming. So I could be like, look, I'm starting to learn about this, but I also was like, hey, I'm working part-time as well while I'm doing the studying, and I'm seeing all of this annoying things at work where I'm like, oh, well, I could fix this if I, like, this would be so much easier process if they just did something like this. Like, I don't know personally how I would do it because I don't know enough, but this is what they could potentially do. And like, I did that sort of thing. And, you know, just like how Grace and Bailey went, I looked into the company. I expressed how I was interested in like the environmental like concern that we have for each of the labs, and like the history, especially with LGBTQ rights, because that was really important to me. So by showing that you have like that passion or the drive, then you will stand out.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have another question that could be a good one to ask. So how has your non-technical degree been useful in your role so far, if it's been useful?
Yeah, great question again. For me personally, I found out it cuts out a lot of the jargon. So obviously, when I joined my department in IBM's Ed Software, I was one of the only people under the age of about 40, I think. So I sat in these meetings and everybody would just chat in 3-letter acronyms, or TLAs as it become a bit of a joke. But and I just sort of said, look, guys, I really don't know what you're talking about. Can we just sort of go through some of these concepts again? And we actually found out that half the people in that meeting didn't know what, you know, these acronyms were. So sort of reevaluating that and revisiting that was great, and sort of brought everyone else onto the same page. And I also think as well that, again, this is going to be a massive generalization, but from my experience, technical people like to focus on details. And I think that coming from a non-technical background and a business degree perhaps helps me focus on sort of, you know, moving things forwards and in actual fact focusing on the higher level view rather than just the minute details and trying to move the project forwards. I don't know about Grace and Lauren, if you want to add anything on that as well.
Yeah, I could actually. I found that it's actually become a lot more significant for me now. Since I was made squad lead, it's meant that I've had to manage like 6 other people, which has meant that I've needed to have an overview of what everything is going on, making sure that all the different threads are going everywhere. And I felt like because I've done a history degree, I've been able to see that big picture and also argue my point when obviously people are very wrong. I don't know, they might be, but it's really helped just to be able to just go and just ask questions as well, because I found that if I've said something where I've been like, where it's obviously obvious to someone, I'll be like, well, what is this? They'll actually end up having to stop and think about it because suddenly they're like, oh, I've never thought about why we're doing this in this particular way before. Technical, like non-technical degree backgrounds means that you can challenge like team, like preconceptions and current concepts and make like everything go like even more streamlined or advance that much more.
Thank you. That's really interesting. It kind of reiterates the point that we were making about the different perspectives and how it really helps, and that's definitely shown how it helps. Thank you. Okay, more questions. We have a question. Do you guys know if IBM sponsors for visas at a graduate level? Yeah, so unfortunately we don't sponsor visas most of the time. There's rare occasions when we do, but yeah, the majority of the time we don't unfortunately sponsor visas.
I think as well, they mentioned that quite a lot in Careers Academy, and it's sort of on a per manager basis and how much they want you and whatnot as well. So it's something to consider if you do get an interview with a business unit. That's when to bring it up, I think.
Yeah, it definitely shouldn't stop you from applying.
Yeah.
I think, did we skip this other question? As in, as someone who has a technical background, how can one stand out between other people who also has the same background during the recruitment process?
Yeah, sorry, I missed that one.
I think
okay, go on, Laura.
Sorry, I was going I think especially during like the interview process and everything, what they're looking for is people. They're not looking for the background. So if you show that you've got this personality that works for being an IBMer, so that curiosity, the desire for innovation, being able and willing to work in a team, that sort of thing are the things that they want to see. One of the things that I remember most during my process was one person said, "Oh, why don't we have a coding test for the developer thing?" And I'm like, "Because of me." but literally, like the people that were looking after us were like, "We're not here to look for competency in code because we can teach you that. We're looking for the people that stick, basically."
Yeah, also I wanted to note that it's also really important that you show your passion for IBM, not just technology. So as I mentioned before, just getting to know our products. As I said before also, What's in Studio is available for free in a basic account. So just playing around with that, see what you can build, see what inspires you. I think that could be a really good tool for your application.
And just off the back of what Lauren said as well, just be authentic, right? If you're interested in football, then say you're interested in football in the interview and speak to people about that, or maybe, or you know, stamp collecting or whatever it may be. be authentic and be yourself, because at the end of the day, on a more personal note, if you're yourself in an interview and you get offered a job, then obviously that manager knows that the job's right for you. Whereas if you are like trying to sort of blag that you're this hacker, ultimate coder and whatnot, and then you get a job, then you've then got to keep faking and putting on this, you know, this fake facade. So just be authentic and be yourself, and that way, you know, the role's right for you.
To add on to what Bailey said, so I was quite heavily involved in the intern recruitment process during my intern year, and I just want to highlight how important it is, not only, like Bailey said, to be authentic, but to really get your personality across within your application as well. I know it's easier said than done, but like at the end of the day, there are a lot of applications, and to stand out, you really want to get your voice across, because at the end of the day, in terms of kind of qualifications, what they're looking for, it's not like super loads of stuff they're looking for. If you hit the certain things right, they'll now consider you, but you've got to, like, to really stand out in the sea of applications, it is going to be, right, who is it that I want to sit next to in the office for the next 2 years? That's literally what it comes down to. Like, look, you hit all these technical qualifications, but do I want to have a chat with you, like, over a coffee? You know, that kind of thing. If you just seem like you sound like the next, like, John, like, what's about that is going to make them want to be like, yeah, I want to get to know so and so. You know, it's really about, right, how can I stand out, but like, yeah, it comes down to personality, in all honesty, because at the end of the day, they're hiring you to work with you, not just with what qualifications you got and stuff like that. It is about you as a person. And so I think that is honestly the number one best way to stand out, is if you can get your personality, your true personality, in your application, and then in your interview you are just your true authentic self, then if they want to work with you, they will choose you, they will pick you, and they will move mountains to make sure that you work there. I've seen it happen, you know. So if they like you enough, they'll do anything they can to get you on their team. So if you can do that, then you're like flying.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, so we've got another question here from Ella again. When do applications open? So at the moment, there's one, I've just got a note somewhere. The placement business roles open on the 22nd of March, but the rest of the roles are closed for this year, and they'll reopen again in the next academic year, usually around September, October time. There's a slide in with these. Well, we'll send them out to you after. But there's a link which takes you to the jobs page, and you have to register your interest on the roles that you're interested in, and we'll send you an email out for when these roles open. But it will usually be around the start of the academic year next time. Okay, should we ask a couple more questions?
Sorry, Hannah, just on the application process as well, guys, like definitely just apply anyway, you know, with your application, because I don't know about, obviously, Grace, I know you're on the internship, but I found that a lot of the other companies, a lot of the big national companies as well, had these really complicated like tests and exams and whatnot, and numerical aptitude tests and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure IBM's one, I remember playing it and it was almost like cut the rope or something. And I was like, I've failed that then, because I found that too easy. But definitely like apply, because it's not an arduous, you know, these lengthy tests that are really not testing who you are as a person. So definitely give it a go.
Thank you. Yeah, so another question. Why, oh, sorry, there's another one here. Is there a time limit from graduating that you need to apply within, as in within 2 years from graduating?
Nope. I graduated in 2015 and I joined the graduate program for developers in 2019. So still apply, don't worry.
That's great. I didn't know the answer to that question, so thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, neither did I.
I mean, I just went for it. I had my degree. I'm technically a graduate.
Yeah.
They should let me in.
I think my mentor as well, she's like 31 and she applied for her graduate scheme at like 30. And so she was working with 22-year-olds and whatnot. But it didn't make any difference in her job and her workplace. So definitely consider, regardless of what age.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you also have the experience, you can also apply to our experienced hires jobs. We just don't have that much information about it. But again, it's all on our website.
Okay. So I have another question. What made you want to get into tech from your non-technical backgrounds?
So I'll go first. I feel like Grace and Lauren are looking at me there on my little screen. Yeah, so basically, I actually have known IBM as, rather than, you know, a technology company, I look at them as almost they're trying to enable businesses to do business better, right? And it just so happens that since 2000, or maybe a bit before that, that it's technology. Maybe in 100 years time or 50 years time, it'll be something else that helps businesses go further. So I like that sort of idea coming from a business degree. I really like that sort of idea. And when I learned about, the data, the AI and the cloud and how that adds value to clients, was then when I thought, okay, I want to get involved in this. And I didn't know where or why and where or how, sorry, I want to get involved in this. And I still don't, and I'm still looking to try and, what's the next step. But yeah, I just knew I wanted to be involved with this. And as well, obviously the money's very good as well for any of those who are sat in the lobby watching this and who are coin operated individuals. The money is amazing.
For me, I'm going to look a bit like a fraud now. So during my degree, wanted to be a lawyer, was going to do all the qualifications and whatever, right? And then like second year, realised like, no, I don't want to be doing that. You're going to be doing like crap work for little pay for many, many years. I was going into law for money anyway, and realised it's all the wrong reasons. So I was like, quickly, let's find some placement that I can get some qualifications and whatever, get it on my CV. I've grown up around Portsmouth, which is where IBM's headquarters are. So I grew up knowing about IBM all my life. I knew how well they looked after their employees. So that was for me the driving force, be like, right, if I'm going to go work anywhere with like basically zero qualifications, I feel like this is going to be a place that's going to look after me really well. That's why I initially wanted to apply. And then as I learned more and more about the company, as I started doing my research, I was really like, oh, this is really, really interesting, actually, what they're doing. And then during my intern year, I was like learning again, even more and more. During my intern year, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do after graduating. And then I started learning more and more about AI and things like that. And I was like, oh, actually, this is really, really interesting. So that's kind of why I did it. I really fell out of love with law and fell in love with AI. So even if at the moment you're still like, oh, why would I want to do like a tech role? Honestly, just have a little look, have a little read about it. And you might find actually there might be just one thing that actually really grabs you. So for me, it was learning about one of IBM's offerings called What's an Open Scale, which is basically about how can we make AI ethical and stuff like that. So that was like obviously right up my street with like law and stuff, law and ethics. So that was the thing that grabbed me. So in all honesty, I was just like, just go have a little look. But actually, yeah, also my original point really stands. They do look after their employees really, really well. So would recommend just on that basis.
Thanks, Grace. Anything else to add to that, Lauren? No worries if not.
I mean, my interest into technology is weird. So when I was in uni, I just did history because I was like, I really like history. It's a lot of fun. I wasn't thinking about future application, like what my future was going to be. I haven't got time for that. I'm doing a degree that looks in the past. I don't do future. So then when it came to final year, I ended up becoming president of the Computer Games Society at my uni. And suddenly, like, I was hearing like all of these conversations about like latest tech, latest games, and like I'd always enjoyed games and stuff. And at that point, I'd sort of gone off it. And then suddenly everything came back and I had that passion back again. So once I graduated, I was like, yeah, you know what? This history degree's fine, but let's do something with like computers and stuff because that sounds fun. And then did a load of stuff with the Open University, and then I got fed up with part-time work and then just decided to apply, and somehow I'm here. So
Amazing. Those are all really good stories. Thank you. Do you think there's any more questions? Does anybody have any more questions from the audience? We have a couple more that we can throw out there, but not sure if anybody else has anything else to say. Okay. Yeah. Does anybody actually have anything else to bring up that might be useful to anybody wanting to come into tech? Anything else that you might be able to think of that could be useful?
I just wanted to say that if anybody does have any questions about go-to-market, IBM, or the placement scheme, then feel free to message me on LinkedIn and whatnot, and we can definitely have a virtual coffee or a phone call or something like that. So if anybody does have any questions or about, being in a tech company from a non-technical background, any sort of questions you might have about that or applications, feel free to swing a message. I'll try and offer any help the little help I may be able to offer. But yeah.
Thank you.
I'm happy also to offer the same if anyone's interested in any developer things. I'll actually make sure that I've actually got a picture on my LinkedIn because at the moment I don't.
Yeah, exactly the same here as well. Anyone wants to even just like a chat about, right, how do I even apply for any of the roles as well? Like anything, just reach out.
Yeah, and Hannah and I are also on LinkedIn. We do at least one event per semester with the uni. So follow us just to make sure that you get notified when we do our next one. By the way, tomorrow we have an event too. It's hosted by the university, but I'm pretty sure everyone can join. It's called the First Insights Conference.
Okay, so if there's nothing else anybody wants to bring up, Christina, is there any more questions you might be able to think of, or shall we wrap it up?
No, I think that's perfect. I think that was so interesting. I found it so interesting.
Yeah, me too, actually. It's really good hearing everyone's stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and hopefully that was really useful. And yeah, if you've got any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, thank you for joining.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Also,
Thank
we're
you.
going to send out the presentation to you after I got all your email addresses. So I'll send you the email afterwards. But yeah, have a good day, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Do you want to stop recording, Hannah?